Well, that was a really good start to the West Coast trip.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings. Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your hosts, Stacey. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, for $20 off your first purchase. Wait, no, just regular Locked On MLB. I was confusing Game Time with Prize Picks. With me, as always, is my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian, are you awake?
I'm awake. Now I'm awake. These late West Coast games, it's killer.
I mean, we needed them to go faster. We needed this to go faster because I was thinking, they're starting at 9:40. It should be, by like 12:15, it'll be over. Nope. All right. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when they go live. On tonight's live show, we preview game 2 between the Yankees and Mariners. We try to figure out who would be the best first round matchup for the Yankees and matchups overall for the Yankees in the playoffs, because a lot of different teams with chances to get in, and we're just going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about the first game in Seattle, because that didn't go the way I thought it was going to, in a good way.
Yeah, unbelievable, right? The bats were alive from really the start of this game. There's a different sense of urgency around this team over the last week or so that you really haven't seen throughout the entire season. Almost like they're hitting this stride of theirs at the exact perfect time. And you're really hesitant to say that out loud, but it's kind of the truth, right?
Right.
And at the same time, in perfect order for the Yankees, is Baltimore just unable to win a game? Because like the Yankees destroying the Mariners late last night, the Orioles got destroyed
in the ninth inning. In the ninth inning, they gave up 6 runs. Kimbrel gave up, because I was keeping track of that. Yeah,
their whole bullpen over the last month has been atrocious. Their bullpen's just collapsed. So you're seeing both things happen at the exact same time, which is kind of like a perfect formula of what the Yankees have exactly needed. You're a little surprised about the effort that Seattle gave tonight, only because they are so desperate for wins right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can give up 10 runs any night. It's Major League Baseball, sure. But it makes you question, when you're a fan of the game, how do you give up 10, 12 runs, 8 runs in a game when it's the most must-win of spots possible for a team? It just makes no sense to me sometimes.
Well, I saw a stat that someone had put up. I can't remember if it was since July or was it since Service was fired, that they only have one win against teams with records over 500. It was something really crazy. Like they just can't beat the teams that they need to compete with to try and sneak into a wild card spot. And it was like watching the Yankees when they were going through their stretch when they couldn't score anyone, and they left so many people on base and were so bad with runners in scoring position. And the only way they could score was on solo home runs, because otherwise they were 0 for 8, 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. It was really bad.
Yeah, the only stat that really supported the Mariners in this spot was the fact that they're actually, weirdly enough, 17-1, now 17-2 in those ugly, hideous throwback jerseys. Well, not even throwback, like City Edition jerseys.
The City Connect, yeah. So Luis Gil,
it's so strange though, in a game that you need to win, in a game that's so important, to just kind of like not show up. It's just so weird.
Yeah, and not show up, do bad things on the base paths, which we'll talk about, because Luis Gil, I mean, he looked awful in the bottom of the first, and he had no control, gets out of it, thankfully, because what was Robles doing trying to steal home on that? That was one of the worst plays I've seen in a really long time.
And got hurt too.
That was woof. Trying to steal home, bases loaded, 3-0 count. Like, what? He had no control. And then he ends up, Luis Gil has 16 games with 5 or more innings and 1 or fewer runs allowed in 2024. So that's another good start under his belt. I mean, was it the best outing? No, but it was perfectly cromulent the way it was. He lasted as long as you needed him to, considering how many walks he gave up, how many pitches he threw at first. I'm like very thrilled with how he ended up pitching.
You know what it is? It's a playoff outing. That's what it is. That's the kind of start that you need a pitcher to give you in the postseason, right? Like a quality get through it kind of game. You're not going to have your best stuff in every single game. You're just not. There's going to be days you wake up and you don't have it. That's what separates the elite pitchers from the guys that are just Like the elite pitchers are the ones who don't have their stuff on a Wednesday in a game 3, and yet they go out there and they give you a quality start and they get the job done. Essentially,
he's doing that as a rookie too, which is impressive because it feels like pitchers don't get that way until they have a little more experience under their belt. And it feels like you're watching someone who's been pitching for a while, the way he can get out of situations and the way he can turn his game around when you think it's going to go. Like he bends, but he doesn't break. It's a rare thing when he does.
There's a level of confidence too, and I think for a young pitcher like that, where you have an elite level fastball and you have elite level stuff, and you're being told that 24/7, and once you get to the major league level, it's hard to prove that to yourself confidence wise before you get to the major league level. But once you get to the major league level and you start striking guys out and you start having your numbers towards the top tier list of major league starters and you start doing it consistently for an entire year, you start to believe in yourself and you start to believe that, oh, you do have some of the most elite stuff in Major League Baseball, and you are one of the more elite arms in Major League Baseball. You start doing that on a more consistent basis, all of a sudden that dream that becomes a reality. Right. And when it becomes a reality for a guy like Luis Seal, now he can pitch a little more freely. Now he can pitch a little more risque, right? Now he's not afraid at this point now to challenge a guy with a fastball, to leave a slider in the zone and dare you to hit it. Whereas, a younger player might be afraid to do that. So you need that kind of level of confidence in a starter. I think that's where a pitcher with really good stuff hits that next level where you're Garrett Cole, right? Where you're not saying Luis Seal's there yet, but it's that level of confidence where I'll throw you a fastball on, a 2-1 count. Go ahead, hit it. Like, you have that level of confidence. Luis Seal is getting to that point, and I think the more and more that he starts to develop this level of confidence where he knows other guys can't hit his stuff, he's going to become more and more and more good, especially, and this is the truth in the postseason, Stacey. You got to dare guys to beat you sometimes. You have to. You got to give them pitches to hit and say, here you go, hit it. My stuff versus yours. Here you go. More often than not in the playoffs, when weather is cold and you start gripping the bat a little tighter and you start getting a little more nervous, the pitcher's the one that wins in those spots. And it's about the guys who have the confidence to throw the ball in those spots. And I think Luis Seal's getting there.
Yep. Moving on to the offense, as you said, they scored often early and they just kept scoring. Glaber, the first inning, Glaber single, Soto double, Judge double. They're already up 2-0 before Heel even takes the mound, which is what you want. Soto hits his 200th career home run, and now he has a home run in every major league ballpark, which was the big thing coming into the series. And then he does it in the first game, which is incredible. So Judge and Soto are the third pair of Yankee teammates to hit 40 plus homers in a season, because that was his 40th, joining Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, who did it 3 times, 27, 30, 31, and Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris, obviously, 1961. So,
pretty unbelievable to be in a list.
They're pretty good, right? Yeah, they're
it's not bad.
Duo. Dominguez hit his first home run of the season for the Yankees, made it 7-1. I wrote in the rundown, how is it only the 5th inning? Because the game was going by. I was like, how? Wells hits a 3-run double to make it 10-1. Tim Mesa comes in, pitches an inning, and then they bring in Stroman for 3, and he gives up the solo home run to Raleigh, but that's basically everything. And he closed out the game. Good job by Boone to save the bullpen arms, because, West Coast trips aren't a lot of fun, and they're playing Seattle and the A's. So good job by him, and nice of Stroman to come in. And, like I said, the only runs that the Mariners got, the solo home run by Polanco and the solo home run by Raleigh. That's it.
And another
So.
thing we noticed too, I think, is that Wells 3-run double was so key because you're going to need stuff like that, right? And there was a point that was made on the broadcast actually of you're going to see a lot of this, right? Where Soto is pitched around and wind up walking, and then Judge gets pitched around, winds up walking. You're going to need your guys like Austin Wells and to come through in the later parts of that lineup. So that's a huge 3-run double. It just proves to you, remember that feeling we had in July where it was like, all right, once it's past Judge and Soto, they're screwed. There's who's hitting. It doesn't feel that way anymore.
Right. And it also feels good with Glaber hitting in the leadoff spot.
He's been tremendous over the last month and a half.
Yeah.
And it's funny with Glaber too. No one will talk about it.
No.
It's like when he's playing poorly, he gets killed out there. Yankee fans are all over him. When he's playing the way that he's been playing the last month and a half, crickets.
Yep. All right. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. Also, reply to the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday if you would like your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday. I'm doing a solo show so you can ask whatever you want. I'm allowing it. Or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club if you don't want to leave the question on YouTube. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions. It's not just for Fan Mail Friday. There's a 14-day free trial. Okay, coming up, we're going to talk about possible playoff matchups because we're almost there.
You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Now, since we're a baseball podcast, let's quickly talk about some of the Yankees numbers. To win the division, they were minus 800 before playing Seattle, so only knows what they are now with the Baltimore loss. To win the AL pennant, the Yankees still remain at plus 200, and to win the World Series, they are plus 500. You can even bet the World Series matchups on FanDuel. You can take the Yankees with the Dodgers, the Phillies, whatever you want to bet. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. And Locked On Yankees is also brought to you by Game Time. Don't you love going to live events? If you do, there's something about there's something about the energy of being in person there, and it's unbeatable. I have so many fun memories at Yankee Stadium, and I'm looking forward to making more this October. I was just browsing for Yankee Game on the app, and let me tell you, the super deal, it's fantastic. I saw some incredible prices for seats I didn't think I could afford. Plus, Game Time breaks it down into different tiers. So whether you want premium experiences or just the best bang for your buck, it's all right there on the app. Oh, and one of your favorite features, you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what seat you're getting. And if that wasn't enough, you got all-in pricing features. Just toggle it on and it shows you the full price up front. There's no surprises at checkout. Plus, they offer the lowest prices guaranteed. And if you find a better deal somewhere else, Game Time will give you a 100% difference of the price. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, just create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And don't forget that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. So, Stacey, now the Yankees with 88 wins on the season, creeping ever so closely more towards that first AL seed, which is, again, we mentioned this in every show, feels so weird to say that they're going to be the first place team, and we didn't see them anywhere close to this a couple months ago. But regardless, I feel a little eerie playing this game, but it's worth discussing for the both of us. I don't like playing the game of who do you want to play in the postseason. I think the best strategy for that is You play who is in front of you. And however it shakes out, it shakes out. Don't wish for somebody. Don't wish for an opponent, because you better be careful what you wish for sometimes.
You never wish for anyone, because it never works out the way you want it to.
Exactly. So having said that, let's talk about who we'd most love to play. Let's see who the Yankees are going to match up best against in the postseason. It is worth discussing. It does need to be discussed. And, our good buddy Jared is saying that it doesn't matter. It does. Because while you may think that you don't want to wish for somebody and be careful what you wish for, I do understand that. Jared, would you rather Boston sneak in and play them or play Baltimore? It does matter. It absolutely matters who you play. 100%. So, Stacey, the updated standings so far in the wild card. Now let's be if the Yankees are the top seed, they'll play the worst wild card team. So that's worth mentioning. But Baltimore currently still sits at the top. And it does look like with the amount of games they're up, it would be really hard pressed to believe that Baltimore could somehow not have that top wild card spot. That would be crazy to believe. It could happen. They've really fallen off. That would be really hard pressed to believe. Then you get Kansas City and Minnesota, and that's where it gets dicey, right? Yeah. Detroit keeps winning games. Detroit doesn't lose over the last month. Yeah, it is crazy. So they're only a game and a half behind Minnesota, and they have a series against Minnesota, which is crazy.
And they're playing Kansas City right now.
Yes, Seattle is a game and a half behind them, and Boston is a game behind them. That's really where it cuts off at that point. Boston kind of still in the hump, but not really. I got to be honest. Teams that like the Yankees, honestly, that are hot at the right time going into the postseason are teams you don't want to touch. Right. They're teams you don't want to see. So I want no part of Detroit, and I want no part of Kansas City. And you guys might hate me for saying this, and eventually there's going to be a year where this turns out to not be true, but I don't think we're there yet. I want Minnesota, baby. I do. Give me the Twins. When has a Yankee fan saying that not worked out in the last 20 years?
More than that now.
So I'm not really necessarily afraid of Minnesota. And what thing does Minnesota do that they're elite at? Right? So like Kansas City has the pitching, which is one of the things that you most want to be scared of. Detroit's been able to hit over the last month. Baltimore's got superstars that can turn it on at any point. Detroit's got high-end aces. Where do you look at Minnesota and think, oh, that part of that team scares me?
I don't think anything scares me. I'm just worried because at some point Minnesota's gonna beat the Yankees in the playoffs. I mean, it's gonna happen. It can't keep going, right? I don't know.
They got off to such a great start this year, and we're a good 5 or 6 games up in that division. And they've completely fallen off. They're 80-71, but they're not an impressive 80-71. They finished with 85, 86 wins. Do they scare you? That's the team to me. If you're the Yankees and you're looking for a matchup that works out best for you, and honestly is a good liftoff point in the first round, I think Minnesota is the team. Every other team.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because in most of the years that the Yankees played Minnesota, they were good. Like as good as the Yankees, but they were always beating up on the AL Central because they played nearly 20 games against the AL Central, and the AL Central never really was that great because you had a lot of teams that weren't doing well. And then by the time Minnesota would get to the playoffs, the Yankees would just roll all over them. I think, how many times did the Yankees sweep them in playoff series?
Or gentlemen sweep,
Yeah, and I think...
Put it this way. I can't remember a time where they played Minnesota and it was a elimination game for either or, a do or die situation.
No.
Can you remember that? I don't remember them ever playing a game where it was a must win again. Obviously all playoff games are must wins, but I don't remember them ever playing a game where it was do or die against the Twins.
No, I'm trying to remember I think there was a playoff series earlier. Oh, maybe not. No, I think they only won one game in that series in 04. Trying to remember. I was at the Matsui walk-off in the division series in 04. I'm trying to remember if Minnesota won at least one game because I think they played 4 games in that series. But that's the only it's the turning things around thing that scares me. But when you look at Minnesota, no, they don't scare me. Kansas City scares the bejesus out of me because
Kansas
the
City
pitching,
has the makeup of a team that makes a run.
Right. They have
right?
that spunky, they run the bases well, especially with Witt. He's constantly hitting doubles and they have the kind of team that if they get on a roll, they will be that team like Arizona was, and
how I describe them, which makes them so fearful? They're young and dumb. They don't know what it's like to lose
like
in
Arizona
big spots.
was last year.
Exactly. They're naive to all of it. They're just going to go. Their season's not going to change. They're just going to go and keep playing baseball.
No one expected them to do this well. They lost over 100 games last season.
Exactly. So that's a team that you don't want to touch a team like that.
No,
you don't.
Detroit also scares me though.
And look at because of how good they've been over the last month, and now it's been consistently sustained. Remember, Detroit was out of it when the Yankees played them in Detroit over a month ago. They were out of it. And now, they've completely turned things around to a crazy level. Let's look at the rest of Minnesota's schedule really quickly, right? They're finishing up a series against the Guardians right now. Then they get Boston, Miami, and Baltimore. Not the easiest of schedules closing out, especially where there's plenty of teams in that stretch that you could lose games to. You look at the rest of Detroit's schedule, right? They get one more game against Kansas City, which, by the way, they've now won both games in the series against Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already won that series. Then they get Baltimore for 3 games, which helps the Yankees out because of how well Detroit's playing.
Right.
Detroit has handled Baltimore over the last
and how well they played them this past weekend, yeah.
Then they get Tampa, whose season is over. And then Detroit finishes the year at home with a 3-game stretch against the White Sox. So their stretch is so much easier. Stacey, I don't think the Yankees really necessarily might have a good option when it comes to who they're going to play.
Yeah.
Because either way, they're going to play someone that's hot at the right time. And as the days go more and more, and as you look at more of the schedule more and more, it becomes more and more evident. Detroit might get in and Minnesota might get out, might lose.
Mm-hmm. That'd be something. But it's something to watch. Just all these different matchups and all these teams that are on the fringe and trying to make it in and are hitting strides right now to make the wild card. It's just, I like it when my team's not involved. I said that on yesterday's show. Like, I like watching from afar when other teams are fighting for something. That's why I always loved the wild card game when the Yankees weren't in it. Like I'd sit there and watch the NL wild card game and be like, oh, cool. But, whenever the Yankees were in it, it was like, oh, no.
You just want to be careful getting the first seed because you don't want to be that team that sits around waiting for a really hot team to come into town.
Right. I know. That's the other thing. But we could talk about that. I don't know. At a different time. Yeah. Okay, coming up next, we will preview the second game of the Seattle series. Okay, for most of us who like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Luka, Ellie De La Cruz, or a Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. Now, I like collecting cards, but that's a lot of money. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that was listed in last week's Arena Club slab pack drop was a hit. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. All your pulls are revealed. They'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent with a full grade rationale provided and the explanation of how your card was scored. So right now you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb and you use the code lockedonmlb. That's arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb, code lockedonmlb for 10% off your first purchase. Welcome back to Locked On Yankees. Remember, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. And also remember, John Sterling will be doing I believe it's the Baltimore series or the last series of the season, but I think he's going to be doing playoff games too. So you can catch him on Sirius XM. How much fun is that? Oh, one note. Thursday's game is a 4:10 start. We said it was 9:40, but it's a 4:10 start. So it's an earlier day. Won't have to stay up late.
Right?
Thank you. Thank you, scheduling people. We appreciate it.
I honestly didn't even realize that myself.
Yeah. 4:10.
No, Thursday's game is 9:40.
It said 4:10 on yes, because they're doing a 3:00 pregame.
I'm seeing 9:40 on the ESPN app, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's check
Which
that
is
out.
unfortunate news, so I'm very sorry. Let me try and go to MLB because sometimes that can be finicky, but I'm hoping for everybody's sake it's not 9:40 because those start times are brutal and unfair.
It's 4:10 on Thursday. It says it on Yankees.com because I was watching Yes, and it had the pregame times, and it said 9:00, 9:00, 3:00, and I was like, oh wait, it's an early game on Thursday. Okay, so we don't have to stay up late.
Yeah, the MLB, the ESPN app is just off right now. It says the wrong time, so that's always
ESPN,
good.
Here, look, Reaper says ESPN lies. Clearly, ESPN did not update that. All right, good. So Wednesday, you have Nestor Cortes, 9-10 with a 3.90 ERA against Bryce Miller, who's 11-8 with a 3.12 ERA. Now, Brian Wu came into Tuesday night's game with really good numbers, and the Yankees got to him. I was really concerned about him. I was concerned about them against him. And when they scored those first 2 runs, I thought, okay. And then when they scored 2 more, I thought, wow, okay. This game, again, did not turn out the way I wanted it to.
The level of control he has, too.
Yes.
Very, very, very impressive all year. And crazy how the Yankees were able to hit him, especially against a pitcher like that can put balls in spots where the Yankees struggle. Really, really, really was strange.
Right.
So, yeah. Sometimes you can't explain the sport, right? We've tried it a million times, but sometimes you can't explain baseball. You really can't.
Yeah. I want to put something up on the screen because I thought this was really funny. Juan Soto walked. I can't remember what inning it was. It was one of the later innings. But this is what it looked like on game day. Look at the called strike. And you all know what I'm talking about because you watched the game. Look at where the red number 4 is. And then look at the other pitches at the bottom that he called balls. What was the home plate umpire doing?
He gave him the 5th pitch for sure, because that was definitely a strike.
Yeah.
He gave it to him. He knew he was wrong.
Yeah.
That was one of the more beautiful, brutal calls I've ever seen.
My goodness. It was so bad.
So
bad.
Yep.
I don't know if I've ever seen a strike that high called. I mean, a ball called for a strike that high. That was just crazy.
Brutal.
So, yeah. Bryce Miller with the 3-1-2. I don't know. I mean, the Yankees feel like they're on the kind of roll you want them to be on. Like, they're kind of like, all right, enough of this going back and forth with Baltimore. Let's just put our foot on the gas, and we know what we need to do. It feels like Aaron Judge finally woke up against the Red Sox. So Thank you for that. The Red Sox didn't wake up. I thought that Garrett Cole was going to fire them up, but they ended up losing to the Rays 8-3 on Tuesday night.
Yeah, every loss for them becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Their season crumbles more and more. Yeah, it was weird how Alex Cora told everyone that I was going to wake him up, and it did.
Oh, I had fun on Sunday nights. Sunday night, Monday show, talking about Alex Cora and that nonsense and all the stuff that he said. And in case you guys didn't know, but I'm sure they discussed it in the pregame and at some point during the game, but MLB is not doing anything about what Alex Cora said about the Red Sox throwing at Aaron Judge, which I think is ridiculous because he came out and said, yeah, no, we were trying to throw at him. Like, set an example, Manfred. What are you doing? It's ridiculous. He's a star player. What if they did hit him, and what if something bad happened? Like, what if his, God forbid, you know what I mean? Like his
that's
wrist
the
was hit
precedent.
or
That's
something.
the precedent you set, though, right? You said that there's no consequences for admitting things like that publicly, and it does no good for anybody because, like you said, what if Aaron Judge got hit in the wrist there and fractured, and he's out for the playoffs? That doesn't just hurt the Yankees; it hurts Major League Baseball.
Right.
Not having one of your superstars playing in the biggest games.
Right. And, going after one of your biggest superstars. It's like, good job. Good job. So that annoyed me. But, a lot of things that MLB does annoys me. By the way, what do we all think of the helmets that are going to have that giant advertisement on it during the playoffs? Did everyone see that? Did everyone see the pictures? Because, ugly.
They're all doing it now. You can't avoid it.
I mean, it's bad enough that you have the patches with the advertisers and anything. I mean, baseball jerseys are going to have, it's going to look like a NASCAR uniform soon. I don't like it.
The only sport left without making their players like a walking advertisement is football. Every other sport, there's some kind of logo, some advertisement.
Okay, see, Reaper doesn't like it. Marvy G really doesn't like it. Using 2 puke emojis. I mean, that's really not liking things, huh?
Any traditionalist baseball fan is not going to like it.
Yeah.
Right? You're just not going to like it, and I totally understand why. It cheapens the uniform, especially the teams with the old school classic looks that everybody loves, right? Like the Dodgers home uniform and the Yankees home uniform and those
Red Sox.
They're not going to make it, but the Cardinals home uniform, those classic looks, you cheapen the look when you start adding, Sharp or Sony on the side of it. You really do. But that's
Star Insurance, like for the Yankees.
This is where we're heading, though.
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to have Oreos written across the top of their helmets this year.
Yeah. Well, that kind of works though, because they wear blue helmets a lot of the time, right? So it'll look like they're wearing an Oreo package on their head. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And they did it intentionally because the helmet's going to say Oreo, and their sponsor is an insurance company called Milk on their jersey, so it's Milk and Oreos. Yeah, still.
Yeah, that's kind of cute, but yeah, it reminds me of when I first started watching sports with my dad when I was like 3, and I'd sit on his lap. And guys
wasn't a thing.
Guys weren't wearing helmets, and there was nothing on the hockey boards. And now they superimpose things on the floor,
covered.
On the glass surrounding the rink and all over the boards. Just it's crazy. And
baseball too. There was a time when there were no ads in the baseball stadium. Now the walls in the outfield are covered in ads.
I really can't stand that at Yankee Stadium. It drives me crazy. I don't like it. That's the one thing I'm a traditional person about. Like, uniforms, fine. I mean, Yankees pinstripes better stay and the road grays better stay. But if they wanted to add like an alternate, I wouldn't mind that so much. Like, I feel like they need to do at least something or somehow come up with a City Connect that's cool. But, everything else, no. Don't like the advertising on the helmets. Don't like it on the jerseys. Don't like it all over the stadium. It's too much. I get it. That's how you make money, but it's more money. I mean, the Yankees make money hand over fist anyway, so.
Modern era, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Gosh, that game took way longer than either one of us thought it was going to. Like I said,
I'm sure tomorrow will be just as bad.
Let's hope not. Let's all cross our fingers that tomorrow's game ends around, like 12:15, so we're not here at 1:30 a.m. Eastern. But again, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. One more time, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day. He has a lot to talk about on that show. The link to Locked On MLB is in the description. You don't need to search. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure you check out the Locked On Yankees postcast right here on the Locked On Yankees podcast feed, as well as streaming on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. Get rapid reaction to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Yankees postcast. So that'll do it for this live edition of Locked On Yankees. We're going to go live again tomorrow, so be prepared for that. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. See you tomorrow night.